Culture.
Okay, we're back and it's time for the show proper, so to speak. I already have my guest in the green room, as I indicated earlier, Dr. Gordon Newlove, Asamoah, who is no stranger to this platform at all, is waiting to join us. Doc, if you can hear me, please activate your camera so we can start the show, sir. Thank you very much. All right. And then I'm also informed that Jataba will be joining us very soon. Nana Ajanim Boateng, founder of the United Front Party, will be joining us very soon. But for now, let's go straight and go speak with Dr. Gordon Newlove, Asamoah, my favorite, your favorite, everybody's favorite guest on this show for how many years time now. Thank you very much for joining us today, Doc. How are you doing, sir?
Kwesi, good afternoon. Actually, good morning in the US, right?
Good morning on my end of town.
Yeah.
But yes, I'm sure it's good afternoon where you are. Thank you very much for making time for us.
Thank you. Thank you for the invite. As usual, I'm always happy to contribute.
Anytime. And we are always the better after listening to you. Thank you very much, Doc. So the last time we met, we did say that we'll be checking in with you every time there's something very important to discuss along the lines of economics. And of course, and here we are, first call for the year 2026. Look, State of the Nation address. I almost said State of the Union. State of the Nation address 2026. Generally speaking, what was your takeaway? How did you take it? What did you hear the president say?
Well, let me say Happy New Year to the listeners. This is the first time for the year, so it's in order that I say Happy New Year to you all and everyone. Looking at the State of the Nation address, I think it's a constitutional requirement that beginning of the year, the president should let us know as citizens the country that we have entrusted to him to look after for us. He should give account to us for us to know what has happened, what is going on, and what are the plans for the future. And so, I mean, we will come to the specific, but in general, I would say that based on what we heard, I think in general, I was very impressed with the State of the Nation. And obviously, before even the president came to Parliament for the State of the Nation address, if you are someone like me who is always following politics and development in Ghana, you will know that over the past 1 year, things have changed. So to some of us who were not surprised to hear all the things that the president was saying. But we are looking forward for a more sustained activity so that the country would get to a certain level within the next 3 years before Mahama's term will end. So overall, I would say that I was impressed with the State of the Nation. And if everything that was said is anything to go by, and politicians will keep to their words for the future, for the things that have been pledged or promised, then I think Ghana will have a brighter future.
That's very good to hear coming from the expert. So speaking of the things that were said, we'll come to the nitty-gritty of it as well. But was there anything that the president said that made you like, not quite, as an economist, sitting out? Because of course, a lot of flamboyant things were said, to make everybody, of course, hears these things and are excited. But did you hear anything that made you feel like, no, this is just politicking, not real in economic terms?
Well, not necessarily, because for me, I've always said that every government that is serious about doing something will be able to do if they are serious to do it. Whatever anybody put their minds to it, they can do. For example, when the MPP won power in 2016, during the campaign, they promised to have free And some of us thought that it was too ambitious to start free SHS from the first year of the Akufo-Addo presidency. But because it was something that they were committed to it, they found a way of making sure that the free SHS kick-started from the first year. Of course, the implementation is debatable as to whether things went well, where did we go wrong, and so on, is discussion for another day. But the willpower was there, and because the willpower was there, it was initiated. For me, what the president said, which is ambitious, or which we have known over some time now, since the budget was read, was the Accra Kumasi Expressway that the president said they wanted to build within his term. So let's say for the next 3 years, they're going to have this Accra Kumasi Expressway. And since the minister read the budget, they have been working on it. Their drawings and everything has come out. For me, that is what I think is very ambitious, and I doubt if the president will be able to do that within the next 3 years. And then also, I also heard some regions, districts were promised some universities, and I believe that some of the things are not necessarily things that we need to worry our heads about. As far as I'm concerned, the president should have priorities in certain areas as opposed to having universities within every district or every region.
Every region.
Yes, we don't necessarily we need hospitals in every town, in every city, but we don't necessarily need university in every region. I don't believe we need university in every region. For me, it is, if you have, fine, but at this time of our development, I think we have enough government universities and private universities in Ghana. I mean, there are even private universities
distributed, though. That's the problem. We may have it, right? But I think they are concentrated in the south. I don't think they are fairly distributed. So that's why having universities in every region may be a good idea for access. Don't you think so, Doc?
No, personally, I don't think so. For example, you could see that Ghana, in terms of academic institutions, is built in such a way that even secondary schools, people travel from the north to come to the south to school. People travel from the south to north. And I know people who live in Kumasi, but they went to training college in Tamale, in Boagatanga, and so on. And I have mates who came to Ashanti region from the northern part of Ghana. We school together. So that is even secondary school. Our secondary schools are built in such a way that it fosters oneness. That is why if you look at Ghana compared to other countries in terms of our culture, in terms of friendliness, Muslims and Christians, we coexist, we do things together because of our school system. And growing up, for example, there were only 3 universities: University of Ghana, University of Cape Coast, and KNUST. And we traveled all over Ghana from everywhere to go to these 3 universities. But now we have universities in Volta region, all over. So for me,
so here's my thing though with that. Again, if people were forced to travel south because the facilities were not there, if there are, like you said, if there are only 3 universities, then everybody's working towards traveling down south to by now if there are universities spread across the country, and there's one in, say, the Upper East region, but it's a specialist university, right? The way we have Takwa School of Mines. If I want to study mining, I will go to Takwa School of Mines, even if I'm from Damango, right? So don't you think that it's also good? Because in the United States, for instance, every state has a state university, but they don't necessarily go to those. I mean, the residents of that state don't necessarily go to those universities.
Exactly. Yes, it's good to have the university. My concern is, for example, the cost involved. Okay, in terms of in economics, we have something we call economies of scale. If you produce on a large scale, the cost per unit or cost per one falls. So you open a university in almost, let's say, every district, and then your intake, you have about 200 students for the whole year. If I go to class and I teach 10 students, I get paid the same amount as someone who is teaching 100 students, and it's not cost effective. So for me, having university across every region will be very good, provided we will have the demand and it will be cost effective. Remember that every year we have lecturers going on strike. Polytechnic, which now we call them technical universities, lecturers going on strike. Their book allowances, research allowances are not being paid, salary increase, and all those things. So for me, if you be able to consolidate the ones we have and then make them in such a way that they can run a lot of programs that people can access and it will be cost effective, I think for me, I will go for that than to have university in every region or district when it does not necessarily bring any efficiency. So for me, for example, so like you say, most people who want to do medicine may want to go to KNUST or Legon, even if there's a university in their area, but not well developed. And also, I've realized that when it comes to project implementations or building, when governments start to do this project, they don't have dedicated fund for it and make sure that we start and we complete. They will start and spread it around and they end up not completing any of them. So we don't get to benefit. Let me give you a typical example. The Agenda 111 hospitals, to build 111 hospitals. As soon as that policy was launched, I questioned it and I give advice that look, it doesn't make sense that you don't have money. At the time, the government said it had $100 million and they are going to distribute that $100 million to start the foundation for 111 hospitals. And I said it doesn't make any economic sense. If you think that you can have budget to build 10 hospitals, identify which areas you really need hospitals and use that money to build the 10, complete them, let people use them so that the next time you get another money, you do for others. But you go and start maybe 50, then you cannot finish. The same thing, Mahama started the e-blocks, 200 of them. By the time he left office, less than 43 were completed. Up to now, as I talk to you now, there are most of them that have not been completed. So we tend to spread the program so that people will see that we are doing something, but we don't get the benefits
of doing them in phases.
Exactly.
We can actually manage them.
Exactly. Do what you can. Let people benefit from that, and then you move. Development is incremental. You cannot develop everywhere at the same time. It should be incremental. So once you know that, oh, I've done up to this point, this is okay. Now we have enough resources to move here, then you can do that. But you don't have to say, oh, if I do here, I don't go and do here, people will complain. So let me start all of them. Then none of us get to complete and none of us benefit from the project. So for me, if we can start and finish for people to benefit, I have no problem. But it has to be cost effective. It's about time we look at the cost effectiveness of all the projects that we undertake as a state, because we tend to waste money anyhow. And that is where I think I had issue. Otherwise, everything was okay for me.
Okay. All right. Now, Doc, he says Ghana is back. That is a loaded statement, even though it's just 3 letters. Ghana is back, right? But looking, especially for you as an economist, looking at where we were, how we were rated by Moody's and Fitch and all of that, and how generally, put Moody's and all that aside, how even Ghanaians used to assess their own economy, and how Ghanaians are assessing their economy now, and how these international agencies are also assessing Ghana's economy right now. And then the president is bold enough to say Ghana is back. As an economist, is Ghana back?
To be honest with you, I would say yes, Ghana is back and on the right track because from 2021 coming, we saw how things were. Inflation went to 54%. Exchange rate, the dollar went at a point was at 17 cedis per dollar, and prices skyrocketed. You go to the market, you you go with certain amount of money today, tomorrow you go, you cannot buy the same things. So things were really, really difficult. I mean, I've never heard in the history of Ghana that the country has defaulted, that the government owes people and cannot
Mhm.
pay. We used to teach. The other day, I was on a program and I was saying that now, Akufo-Addo and the finance minister, they have changed the way we used to teach economics, because sometimes when I was teaching investment, for example, we said, oh, there are securities that are very safe for investment. If you go and invest in government bonds, government is continuity. Government is not like a business that will collapse. So
Yeah.
government never defaults. So we have something we call risk premium.
Mhm.
If you go and invest with a private company, they will pay risk premium because they are likely to collapse and default. But government will never default. So government is investment, when you go and see with the government, is safe. But it got to a point that people were giving haircuts. Your investment, you're not going to get your interest, and your capital is also being slashed. So then it makes it even risky to invest in government securities. So that was how bad the situation was. That was how bad. So now it got to a point when I was teaching how to give, oh, there are exceptions.
Yeah.
There are exceptions.
Yep.
There are exceptions. Instead of basically saying generally that government will not default, we say that, oh, there are a few exceptions when the economy becomes so difficult. So it was that bad, and people could feel it in their pockets. And you see, in Ghana, we are net importers. Okay, when it comes to export and import, the things that we export less than we import.
Mm.
And the exchange rate is very determinant, or is very important when it comes to looking at whether you are importer or you are exporter. If you are net importer, then when the exchange rate is going up, you lose. It makes things in your country very expensive. Because, for example, if I have to buy $1 for 17 cities, it means that whatever I buy for $1, I will not be able to sell it 15 cities. First, I will sell it 17 cities. I have to add my expenses, my transportation, plus my profit. So I end up selling it around 25 cities. Meanwhile, if the exchange rate was 10 cities, then with my profit and everything, probably I can sell it around 15 cities. So it was very bad that it was affecting even businesses, because businesses were complaining that those who do import, you exchange 1 billion cedis to import things. By the time you finish selling and re-importing, that 1 billion cannot import the same thing again.
Mm.
So within the last 1 year, we have seen how the city has stabilized, actually appreciated, because city that was around 17, 16 is around 10, 11 by December. So it tells you that things have really picked up as far as the economy is concerned. And then inflation towards the last quarter, from September coming to December, we actually had single digit inflation. And because of the exchange rate, which was appreciating, plus the inflation that was coming down, you could see that it reflected in the prices of things. At the pump, when you go to buy fuel, for example, fuel prices were decreased at a point, something that hardly happens in Ghana. Ghana, things prices always go up, they never come down. Transportation at a point had to be reduced. So it reflected how the economy was performing, reflected in people's pocket. Because I was listening to someone who said he was using Toyota Land Cruiser, and he used to fill his tank like 2,000 cities. But when the prices came down, he could fill the tank with 1,500 cities, meaning that extra 500 cities is saved. So these are the things that you want to reflect in people's pocket. So you will not just look at the figures that they are coming down, but you can actually experience them through the reduction in the prices. Of course, when we talk of inflation, people get the misunderstanding that when inflation is coming down, prices should come down. It does not mean that prices should come down. It means that prices are increasing, but the rate at which they are increasing is reducing. If prices are coming down, rather, then we can say that there's deflation. That is what we call negative inflation, deflation.
Is that a good thing? Deflation?
Deflation?
Yeah. Is it a good thing?
Deflation necessarily is not a good thing, because when there's a deflation, it doesn't encourage businesses to produce. What it means is that people are not buying the things, and so prices are coming down. If prices are coming down, producers are going to lose, and if they are losing, they are not going to produce. If they are not going to produce, they are not going to employ people, so unemployment will happen. If there's unemployment, GDP is going to fall. So deflation is not good. Inflation
is like a necessary evil which has to be managed within a certain.
Not very high inflation, but reasonable inflation is good. It spurs the economy. It gives business people motivation that whatever I'm selling, whatever I'm producing, people will buy, I'll make profits. And because of that, they're able to employ people, they're able to produce, they're able to increase the GDP in the economy. So mild inflation is good. When it becomes excessive, that is when it's not good, because it hurts everyone. But mild inflation is good. So I would say that yes, the economy, Ghana is back.
Ghana is back.
The rightful thing.
Okay. Now, speaking of that also, Doc, two things. The gold board, right? And its significance to the stability in the economy that we are experiencing right now. Yeah. And also, I'm looking at that as one thing, and also just the idea of having a gold board, and also the reintroduction or the relaunch, if you can call it that, of Tema Oil Refinery.
Yeah.
These two together, what impact is it potentially going to have on the economy?
Good. I think, I don't know if people really recall, but I was one person who was always calling for Mahama to come back. Anytime I was on a platform and people asked, why do I want Mahama to come back? I said, someone who has made mistakes before will always learn from their mistakes and they will do better. And I know I read one famous American entrepreneur. He said he will never employ someone who has never made mistake in the field he wants to employ someone. If you never made mistake in that field, he's not going to employ you, because you don't know how to fail. He wants somebody who has failed in that field, so that the person can learn what he did and fail, so that he will not do it again. And I think he's been listening to some of the things that we've been saying, because me, for once, I've always called for Tor to be restored, because it did not make any economic sense that at the time Ghana was not producing crude oil, we were refining oil. Yeah. We were refining petrol, all of those things. And then when we started producing oil, we stopped refining.
Makes no sense.
And then we were importing finished product to store at the Tema Oil Refinery. And sometimes I sit down and look, what kind of leaders do we have? Why can't you sit down and think, one, if you decide to refine this, we are not going to import, and that is going to put less pressure on the foreign exchange. So for me, it's very, very good thing that the Tor has come out now. And now what it means is that in terms of our imports, remember before the NPP left office, they introduced gold for oil.
Yes.
Because the oil prices were going up and the cedi was depreciating all the time. They decided to use gold for oil. Meanwhile, we could produce the oil in our own country. Why do we have to pay money and import? So by refining it ourselves, we are able to create jobs in the first place. More people have jobs to do. They will pay taxes to the economy. Those around the Tema enclave, they can also provide services, which we call auxiliary services. So we talk of direct employment and indirect employment. Those running restaurant, those running hotel services, transportation. So it will create a lot of job, which will also have multiple effects on the life of people. And second, we are not going to import finished product because we know that finished product tend to be more expensive than the raw one that we export. So we export raw material at cheaper price and we import finished product at a high price. No economy will be able to survive doing this all the time. So that is very good thing that we have reintroduced. Talking of the
and actually, yeah. Even with the gold borders, let me chip in this real quick. My emphasis is on the refinery because Ghana announced that we're going to start refining gold. I think there's already some agreement.
Actually, they have started. That's what I was going to say. I saw the shop. They have a gold shop where they have produced jewelry, different kinds of jewelry that people go there to buy. I've seen it myself. So the same thing. We produce gold, and then we export the raw gold all the time. Then we import finished products from outside. Meanwhile, by processing it now that we have started, the gold board, apart from helping to show up the city, we are now able to employ our own goldsmith, produce our own gold. And you see, we are able to produce these designs that are locally. Look at the dress you are wearing, the dress that you are wearing. Excellent. We produce our own things with our own symbols, the Adinkra symbols, our gold, using it to produce jewelry with Ghanaian touch. It gives you privilege. It gives you that feel-good element that, look, I'm wearing made in Ghanaian gold. I quite remember last year, I went to Ghana, and then when I was coming, I brought Ghana chocolate, and I shared it to the staff at my workplace, and I told them, this is premium cocoa. We are not talking about caramel. We are talking about premium Ghanaian cocoa. And when they read the content, they're like, wow, that is very rich in cocoa. I said, yes, because this is made in Ghana. He said, do you know why I don't eat chocolate from Switzerland and other places? Because they are more caramel, more sugar, but this is pure cocoa. So the pride that I had because I had Ghanaian chocolate. So the gold board and the Tema Oil Refinery, one, they're able to create employment, they're able to add value to our raw material. So instead of getting peanuts for the raw material that we are exporting, now we have added value and we're able to get a lot because we have added value. So these are all things that I believe that they help the economy to grow. They help the economy to develop so that we don't always have to export raw material. At a point, if you read development history, what happened is that the developed world, the Europeans, the US, they want Africa to be exporting raw material to feed their industries. So I was very particular when we set up this African Continental Free Trade. My PhD dissertation was on the African Continental Free Trade because I saw the market that 54 countries can give. So assuming we decide to trade everything even among ourselves, we have about 1.5 billion people to trade among ourselves. It's a very big market that if we add value to our raw materials, we'll be able to generate a lot of revenue and a lot of development for our country. So these are very good signs that if we'll be able to sustain them, then we can move forward.
All right. Speaking of gold for oil, let me ask you this, because I heard Minority Leader Fenyomakin say in Parliament that the gains of this economy should be credited to Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. Well, he said the gains of the gold board should be credited to Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia because the gold for reserves program is the same, or it's a replication of the gold for oil program. Is that a fact from your point of view?
Well, to some extent, I would say yes, to some extent, because the other day I was talking about the fact that in theorizing, in coming out with theories, people first come out with a theory, then others will write a critique of the theory and say, oh, if you have done it this way, it would have been better. And then they also improve upon it. So you can have a theory that has been done by about three or four people. Each of them will build on each. And so for me, the initial idea came from Bawumia when he introduced the gold for oil, so that instead of exchanging the cedi to go and buy the oil, we can exchange with the gold. So if somebody says the idea came from there, I think to a large extent, I will agree. As to whether the implementation would have been the same as was conceived, that is another question. But in terms of having the genesis to do something like that, I think if somebody said they should give some credit to Bawumia, I think I wouldn't fault the person, because
okay. But then in terms of the content of those policies, though, are they the same? Because in one instance, you are using gold to, at least from my layman's understanding of these things, you're using gold to go exchange for fuel, gas, right? Petrol, which you put in your vehicles or whatever and burn into the atmosphere and it's gone. So it's like you spending, you're consuming, you're using the gold to go buy something that you're consuming, versus putting gold away in your reserves. Looking at the two, from where I sit as a layman, it looks different to me, doesn't it?
Well, they may look different, but in terms of the goal, what do you want to achieve? Okay, that's why I said the implementation may be different, but the idea behind is that, let me start from the gold for oil, for example. When Bawumia started, the idea is that the cedi is depreciating. So if you want to keep changing the cedi into dollar to get the oil, the cedi is going to get worse. So for us to maintain maybe some stability, let's use the gold so that we don't have to exchange the cedi into dollar. So the idea is the cedi stability. Now, if you look at the current idea also, the reserve, the gold for reserve, is to build a reserve. Reserve are different from stability, but at the moment, the objectives are two. So let's say when the MPP started, there was one objective, but now there are two. There's addition. That's why I was saying that somebody will start something and somebody will build on it. Now, the idea is that let's have reserve for the future. At the same time, let's use the gold to make the cedi also stronger. So that is the two objectives now. So to build on what was started, it may not necessarily be the same thing, but the idea, the foundation would have been taken from the gold for oil. And I think they even started gold for reserve as well. It was good for oil and reserve initially, but of course it didn't last for long before they left power. But as to whether they would have added the refinery that is being done now is another question. But the initial idea, I think I will not fault anyone who will say that some of the credit should go to the previous government. I wouldn't. Yes.
Okay. All right. Doc, let's watch this short clip and I want you to react to it when we come back.
Okay.
As I speak to you, work has started on 50 major road projects that cover a distance of 1,144 kilometers. The total estimated cost of these projects is 50 billion Ghana cedis. Meanwhile, government is also completing 23 projects that were awarded by the previous administration but were not paid for. These projects amount to another 573 kilometers and are estimated to cost 15 billion cedis. So if you add that to the 1,500, it means about 2,000 kilometers of roads are currently undergoing rehabilitation as I speak. This is the biggest major investment in our road sector in the history of Ghana.
The biggest investment in our road sector. The president also said that the biggest chunk of the national kitty is going to be dedicated to roads. How important are roads to the economy? And I know you hinted on this in your very first response, but expand on that a little bit for us. Why does the road sector eat up so much of the budget when an area like arts and tourism gets like chicken change? Let's face it.
Yes. Roads are very important. When you talk of economic infrastructure, road is one of the biggest economic infrastructure, because whether you will be able to transport the goods that you have produced, transporting people to work and so on, they need the road. So roads are very important. If you look at the 4 Asian tigers, we talk of Singapore, talk of Malaysia and all those countries. Singapore, for example, has the #1 roads in the world. If you look at the kind of road they have, impeccable. And it brings about development. Talk, for example, before the Circle Interchange, which they call Accra Dubai, was constructed, for example, by the same Mahama, it takes you about 2 hours when you move from GBC through to Kaneshi. It will take you more than 2 to 3 hours on that stretch alone. So you can imagine the amount of working hours that will be lost if you want to go through that. But once that place was constructed, within 20 minutes, it's cleared. So roads are very important. So that's it. So when you invest in roads, it's very good because it opens up everywhere. If it's the rural areas, they'll be able to bring out the cocoa, the food that get rotten in the hinterlands. If you have lived in the rural areas, like for me, for example, I have lived in typical rural area where sometimes when it rains, no car will be able to go there. People have to walk like 10 kilometers to the place where they can get transport because the roads are immobile. So investment in roads are very key, are very important. But my problem, I still have problem there. My problem there is not how much is being invested, but how many roads are being done at the same time. Once again, that's my problem. Mahama himself said that there were over 500 something roads that Akufo-Addo left behind, which is costing about 15 billion. And now he is also doing some that is going to cost 50 billion. So we are talking about 65 billion Ghana cedis. Where are we going to get the money from this year to complete all those roads? So wouldn't it be prudent for us to be selective? The roads that have been started already, which ones will be easy to complete rather than to initiate new ones? Which areas are so bad that if we don't tackle this immediately, the place will be in more trouble? So identify the roads that need urgent care and let's tackle them and do them gradually. For me, all the roads that he mentioned, there's no way that he can even finish all of them before he leaves office. Because one, the money is not there. They are too ambitious. If we're able to do that, I would doff my hat off for him, but they are too ambitious. Let's go systematically, complete some of them with available fund instead of starting all of them at the same time and we are not able to finish any of them. If we can finish even 20% of the over 2,000 kilometers or whatever he's talking about, if we can finish 20% this year and it's usable, and next year we do another 30% gradually, I think I'll be for that. So much as it's good to be ambitious about roads, we should be able to look at the source of funding and how we can complete them on time so that we don't waste resources. Akufo-Addo thought he was going to complete it, but he's left all of them behind. And he said the same thing, that the roads that they are constructing at the time was unprecedented. It has never happened. What happened? They never finished them. And so for me, I believe in starting and finishing than to starting so many and you end up not finishing them. And then the money goes down the drain and we have to start from the scratch. Roads are such a way that if you start and you leave them, they deteriorate. And when you come back to them, you may have to start from the scratch again. So it's better for you to start, give yourself time frame. If it's 24 months, use it to complete, move on to the next. And I think for me, that will be what I am for.
So do you get any impression that the government has no idea of where it's going to source funding for these things? Because when I hear the president speaking about these projects, what I'm thinking is Nina Jina Bibi. So if you know, to use that expression, you think that we these are just wet dreams for now?
No, for me, I believe they have idea where they will source the fund from, especially when it comes to Accra Kumasi Express Road. The last time I heard, the idea was to have public-private partnership.
That's right.
So they're going to have to involve the private sector, but government will have to also bring in chunk of the money, while the private sector will also contribute, because they were supposed to have the private sector so that after the road, they can install some road tolls to recoup the investment back. So when it comes to that, I think they know what they are doing. But most of the road are GOG funding, Government of Ghana funding, which are from the taxes. For example, we have cocoa roads where the money to be used are from Cocoa Board. And let's look at the problem Cocoa Board is having now. They don't even have money to pay the cocoa farmers, the cocoa that they have bought. They don't even have money to pay them. How much more can they have money to pay contractors who are working on those roads?
Yeah.
So we have to be measured in all those
I think
things.
the government took the cocoa roads away from Cocoa Board, though. I think they put it back.
Exactly. So now everything has become GOG funding, except specific roads like those that sources have been funded for. But he said the project that Akufo-Addo left behind, there was no funding for them, meaning that it has to come from the annual budget allocation, which is from the taxes that we are paying. And we know the annual budget allocation, we cannot have so much to complete all those roads within, I'm using the period that Mahama will be in the next 3 years. There's no way we'll be able to finish all the roads that he's talking about. So we should prioritize and see which ones needs urgent touch, and then we devote time for them. And then those that can wait a little, we should wait until we get secure funding, so that when we go on the site, we know that from start to finish, we have, like you said, we have something in sight. Yeah, 9 CBB, so before we start.
Okay. Now, he also mentioned starting, apart from what you've already spoken about, that the new universities and all that. One other thing that also caught my attention is when he mentioned that Ghana is eyeing building a new textile factory.
Yes.
That I think is very, very, very vital, because even the kente crapo these days, people print that from China, right?
Exactly.
So even if you want to depict
Exactly.
your national pride, you're still buying fabric from China. Now, if Ghana has its own textile printing industry, with all the yen tuma that we will buy, with all the kaba and slate that we are going to buy, with all the tuma ifra that we are, how important would this be for the economy?
It's very critical. Because I won't lie to you, the industrialization is very critical for every country. And so, for example, we're talking about 24-hour economy. Where can you start? Which area is better to start 24-hour economy than factories? We ask ourselves sometimes, people travel to Europe, to the US, to advanced countries. Where do the people get work to do? Most of them in the factories. And they have 3 shifts. Some start from 6 to 2, 2 to 10, 10 to 6, and it goes on. It goes on. So can you imagine if we are able to revive these textile factories on the value chain? Okay, the value chain will mean that we have to have cotton farmers. So have proper irrigation. Let them have this big farm that can produce the cotton. So you generate employment there. A lot of people, because for you to be able to produce the cloth, you need more cotton. So you're going to have a lot of people employed in the cotton field. Then it comes to the factory itself. And then you produce. You have people who will be working on it morning, afternoon, and the night. And you can implement the 24-hour economy effectively. Then the end product, the cloths, go to Makola, KJTR, and that is where all those people who sell the cloths, now instead of importing from China, instead of importing, going to Nigeria and other places to import, they are being produced. And like I was saying, we are able to produce with our own cultural background, our own Adinkra symbols. Now we produce made in Ghana goods in China. Yeah. We cut the design Adinkra symbol, send them to China to produce, and we bring. How proud do you feel if you know that I'm wearing made in Ghana, but it's actually made in China? So for me, if we're able to do that, I always have what we call national pride. Anytime I'm in something made in Ghana, it makes me very happy. I quite remember when I was in school in Rome, they used to call me Ghana ambassador, because I had this kente cloth that I made, like fugu, small fugu. So it was very good for the summer. So every summer, that's what I used to wear. Then when the summer is over, I wash, fold it nicely, and pack it. Then when next summer, I bring it out. And I had like 2 of them. Okay. So if we can revive all these factories and we are producing, apart from creating job and on the value chain, we are not going to import. There's less pressure on us needing dollars. So the cedi will be stabilized. So if you want to stabilize the cedi the way it is, we can sustain it by making sure that the things that can support the cedi stability, if you're able to do that, the economy will pick up naturally. You don't have to say it. People will see it, because people get up in the morning, I have to write to my cotton farm. People get up in the morning, I have to go to work. People get up in the morning, I have to go to the market to sell. And people have money to buy them because people are working. So politicians do not have to even come and talk about the fact that, things are happening, because people will see it. When the fuel prices started going down, people were on social media talking. I was like, this is the first time I've heard Ghanaians praising that things are going down, because every year there's last year they better China fee. But people were saying, 2025 Christmas was better because they were able to buy things and stuff. So when things are going well, I think people will see it. So let us make sure that the things that can help the economy, we actually put our energy into those areas and not just lip service that we want to say things to get people to give us the necessary applaud, but then we end up disappointing. If we can revive all these factories, then the 24-hour, we give all the incentives under the 24-hour economy. Trust you me, Ghana will be back, as Mahama said.
Okay. Before we go, I have another video to show you, and then I have one more question for you before.
Right.
Actually, two more questions, because one will be based on this video.
Okay.
And then I have an extra question. But let's watch this video, and when we come back, I'll ask you.
Receive cabinet approval to reintroduce road tolls on our roads and our bridges. Mr. Speaker, this time using advanced technology to improve efficiency, transparency, and avoid leakages in revenue generation. Preparatory work is underway to ensure the reintroduction of tolling operations this year. Mr. Speaker, there is no doubt that an effective and efficient transport system is integral to any economic development plan. So to improve public transport services in the country, government is supporting Intercity SCC Coaches Limited, Metro Mass Transit Limited, and the private road transport operators to renew their fleets. Currently, a total of 300 buses have been procured to improve road transport. The initial batch of 100 buses is scheduled to arrive in the country by the end of the first quarter of this year. Mr. Speaker, in fulfillment of my pledge to re-establish a national airline, a 10-member task force established to oversee this initiative has submitted a business model and operational framework to guide the selection of a strategic partner for the new national airline. And this new national airline will take off soon, inshallah.
Inshallah, this new airline will take off soon. Three things I want us to look at there, though. Number one, road tolls, right? Something that I think Ghana is possibly underutilizing. Number two is the fleet of buses that are going to be back Intercity, STC, and Metro Mass. And then, most importantly, what I actually want you to react on is the reintroduction of the national airline. How significant will that be? Please touch on each of these three items quickly before we go.
Okay. The road tolls are in order because for me, it didn't make sense for them to take the road tolls from our road. Everywhere I have been to, there's always road tolls on highways. In the US, I mean, I've been to a lot of states, Virginia. I've been to the city that hosts Worcester. What's the name of that state?
Worcester is Connecticut.
Massachusetts. I can't remember. I was in Worcester and we were going for a funeral in New Hampshire. And in the GPS that we're using, we had to choose the road, whether to avoid road tolls, where it's going to give us that village road, or they call it slower road.
Local road.
Rural roads. That is going to take maybe 3 hours. Or we can use the express road and pay tolls, and it's going to take like 1.5 hours. So we say, okay, we want to pay the tolls because we have to be there at a certain time. Do you understand? So road tolls are very necessary. Even advanced countries like US, it generates a lot of revenue to maintain the roads. So a poor country like Ghana will say, for me, we're not going to do road tolls. And when it was said in Parliament without even any approval, that very day, all the road tolls were removed, and it didn't make sense. So for me, if the road toll is coming back, that is a good thing. And with the Kumasi Express Road, bringing in a private participation. If you don't introduce road tolls, how is a private person going to get their investment back? So for me, it's a step in the right direction. Now, the second one are the buses. I was so sad. I think early part of the year when transportation became difficult. Even within Accra, people couldn't even get trotro to their workplaces. And I saw John Dumelo had to go and hire a bus to his constituency to take people to work and all that. I was like, what is happening? I thought we had what we call, there's this Ayalolo. So what happened to the buses? So if they have imported 300 buses for that purpose and intercity, then what they have to do, for me, for it to be successful, they should run intercity STC as a private business. I don't know when was the last time you went to Ghana and you used commercial bus, but if you look at the VIP, the way they are running VIP, it's like every 10 minutes, 20 minutes, VIP bus is moving. And this is a private business. They are making a lot of money. You go to STC and you look at the kind of buses they are using. It will not even appeal to you to take it. And they're supposed to have the best drivers. When I was going to University of Cape Coast from Kumasi, we have to buy advance tickets, STC.
Yep.
Advance tickets. And everybody comfort, because I wouldn't go and take any other bar apart from STC to Cape Coast. Very comfortable. What happens? So if we want to really run STC or the state transport, we need to introduce models that are private oriented. Of course, it can be subsidized, but it should be competitive enough. And people should be held responsible. How can you have Metro Mass buses condemned when the Metro Mass has mechanics? They have fitters that can work on them. How come VIP buses are not being condemned? But within 5 years, a brand new Metro Mass bus, you go to their workshop and they are all there. And private people are buying them and turning them into private transport. So until we are able to change our mindset and believe that for state to function properly, we need to have a model that will be business-minded. We will keep pumping money into these things and they will not work.
And I agree with you. Before we go to the last part, I'm looking at it like this. The president said that they're bringing in more buses and all that. That's all well and good, but what use would the buses be if the roads that they're supposed to run on are not properly organized for them, right?
Exactly.
So
because
you inundate Accra with 300 extra buses, or how many ever extra buses?
And if there are no bus lanes in Accra,
basically the buses are sharing the same lanes with the everybody else who are already stuck in traffic. Then there's a problem.
So they need to create bus lanes, special bus lanes for the buses so that the buses will be faster. And that is what will encourage people to also use the bus, because if I would sit in my private car, but the bus can be faster than my private car, why not? A lot of people, they can have what we call park and ride.
Exactly.
So maybe, have park and ride around.
The city is not choked with vehicles, right?
Exactly.
If they start charging people to drive before I left New York for Texas, they were considering doing that. I don't know if they started doing that now, but they were thinking of zoning New York City in such a way that parts of New York, it was going to be like London. When you drive in certain zones.
That has been happening in London for almost 30 years now. You can't drive into central London without you paying.
Yeah.
Nobody will prevent you from.
And it's so high, you really would park and ride.
Yes, you park and ride.
If they would introduce park and ride from, say, Medina, you drive up to a point in Medina, you stop. So it frees up the road for the buses to ride on.
Exactly. Okay. And coming to the airline, I was particularly happy that he talked about strategic partner, because I have said I'm not going to support any state airline that is wholly state-owned unless the private sector is involved, because I have a very bad experience when it comes to Ghana Airways. And if you Google, I have written a lot of, at least about 3 articles on Ghana Airways. In In the year 2003, 2004, when I was doing my master's in public policy, I did a research on Ghana Airways. I was at Hull, which is about 4 hours by train to London. And about 5 different occasions, I had to take train to London, Heathrow, to interview people. Ghana Airways will leave Ghana half empty or half full, whichever way you look at it. And they were coming to Heathrow 5 times in a week. And I wrote that it doesn't make sense. Why are you coming to London 5 times in a week with half flight? Meanwhile, the charges, the same fuel, the same landing charges, and so on and so forth. So when I went to Ghana myself, I wanted to buy a Ghana Airways ticket. I was told Ghana Airways was full. So somebody advised me, go to the airport. Maybe somebody will cancel the flight and then you can get a flight. I went to the airport and lo and behold, I got a ticket. Trust me, I had 3 seats to myself. I had 3 seats to myself in the middle, so I slept properly. I was like, so what is the problem? What is wrong with us? Apparently, people just reserve, politicians just reserve them and they don't even use them. And so Ghana Airways was always running at a loss until it got grounded. And then it was transferred to private sector, led by a consortium by Sammy Crab, who eventually became MPP vice chairman. It became Ghana International Airline. And at the time, Ghana International Airline was grounded in London because they owe so much. The ticket that they have sold, they could not refund the money to the passengers. And Ghana government was supporting Ghana International Airline to the tune of $3 million every month. And I asked myself, what is the sense in keeping national airline when it's draining the states? So when it collapsed, I wrote another article that if anything at all, people have paid for the ticket, at least you should be able to refund their money for them. No, it is the same government that have to use taxpayers' money to refund tickets for those who have bought the ticket. So if today government want to bring it back and they bring it back the way it was, I will never support it. But if it is strategic partner and the private sector will lead with government support, then I'm all for it, because no private partner will say, oh, I'm going to invest billions of dollars into Ghana Airways and I'll allow politicians to just ground it anyhow they want. No, nobody's going to do that. So if that is what we are going for, then I think I'm all for it. And I think that will be the best model to use, because anything that we Christian government there, it never goes well, because people believe that once belong to the government, I can do anything and go away with it. So if it's public-private partnership, I'm all for it.
Okay. And you if you remember, some time ago, we were in talks with Ethiopian Airlines, I think.
Yes.
About that. Yes. And I don't know if the partnership is going to head that way, but Ethiopian Airlines has great experience.
They've been very efficient.
Yes.
They've been very efficient. So we have to, I learned we're going to have partnerships. So let's see if really, they said they are coming out with a strategic partner. Let's see which strategic partner is coming, what is their experience, what is their capacity, and what manner of partnership is going to be, so that we know the way forward.
Okay, Doc. Thank you so much. Finally, before we go, and I hope we can spend just about 2 or so minutes on this, maximum, because I know we've taken a chunk of your time. Recently, the government has announced so-called legalization of cannabis, right, for industrial and medicinal purposes. Now, they're announcing licensing fees so people can go buy or purchase licenses to start cultivating cannabis, for medicinal, has to be clear, for medicinal and industrial uses. Now, you live in the West. You see or you know of some countries that are cashing in on the new so-called green gold. Do you think it's the right step for Ghana to go into this area?
Yeah, I think it's long overdue, because I quite remember during Mahama's first term there was this narcotics boss called Akrasi Sapon.
Mm-hmm.
Akrasi Sapon suggested that cannabis, Indian hemp or cannabis, whatever we call it, should be downgraded so that in terms of its narcotic value, it should be downgraded from hard drug to soft so that it could be used for medicinal, because they use it in a lot of medicines. But people are afraid to cultivate, people are afraid to come out with it because of the crime associated with it.
Mm-hmm.
So he was advocating for legalization of it. And I mean, in the West here, if you go to Netherlands, you can walk into any shop. If you go to Rome, you can go to any shop and buy cannabis. So if you're going to use it for medicinal and it's going to create that atmosphere, jobs, and people are going to regulate it properly as well so that it's not abused, I think it's all good. Because recently I saw some police arrested is it a truck load of cannabis that have been made into slabs.
Mm-hmm.
And because it still had that hard drug tag, they've been arrested. So if they can license people and regulate it for people to work, and then they'll be able to get enough for drug manufacturing and all that, I think that should be good.
Dr. Gordon Newlove Asamoah, thank you so very much. Our first touch base of the year.
Always a pleasure.
I know we will be touching base with you many more times before the year is over. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right.